I found myself going back and forth between two of the three main frontrunners, unable to make a choice about whom to endorse. Then one morning, my wife Margaret told me, forget about endorsements for a second. If the election were held tomorrow, who would you vote for? Kennedy. That, without a moment of hesitation, I said that name. Then she asked me an even more important question. Why? Because I trust him. That was my response. Of all the candidates, I trust Kennedy the most. Among schools who start with relatively high-performing students, charter schools have the worst persistence rates, and the worst of the worst are Pritzker charter at 46% and Rauner charter at 45%. You can't make this up. The worst of the worst are Pritzker and Rauner. We need a governor who will partner with us to stop this reckless privatization and charter school expansion. A governor dedicated to giving our teachers and staff the resources and support they need to help our students realize their God-given potential. That governor will be Chris Kennedy. Yes. We have a political system in which elected officials collude with one another to engage in legalized theft of public money. We've endured an endless stream of reckless budgetary practices from an administration in City Hall that seems hell-bent on indebting taxpayers to the mayor's campaign donors. One of the most asinine examples of this reckless and incompetent spending is the so-called social impact bond for preschool. Goldman Sachs, three investors, all of whom are donors to the Emmanuel campaign, Goldman Sachs, Northern Trust, and the Pritzker Group, headed by J.B. Pritzker himself, they loaned CPS $17 million and stand to gain more than $34 million from taxpayers in return. We're paying $34 million for a program that costs $17 million. And we're paying it to Sachs, Northern Trust, and Pritzker. Yes, one of the many wealthy beneficiaries of this legalized theft is the Pritzker Foundation, headed by a man who wants to be your next governor. So I have to ask myself, which candidate has the most independence and the strongest spine? The independence and spine necessary to work with residents to root out corruption from our elected offices and from our campaigns. That candidate is Chris Kennedy, who will work the hardest and most effectively to support and maintain higher education, health care, and pensions. That candidate is Chris Kennedy. Which candidate has the best chance of reversing our current governor's practice of taking the legislature hostage in order to pass laws that suppress our human potential so that they can maximize their profit potential? Who has the best chance of reversing that? That candidate is Chris Kennedy. And speaking of Ron, that poor excuse for a governor, perhaps the most important question that we have to ask is which candidate has the best chance of defeating Bruce Ron, sending him home to lick his wounds, and bringing a new era of responsible government and ethical government to Illinois. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to look no further than Chris Kennedy. There are three front runners for governor. Of those men, Chris Kennedy is the one that cares the most. Of those men, Chris Kennedy is the one I believe the most. Of those men, Chris Kennedy is the one I trust the most. He will build the capacity of our public institutions and public servants. He believes that retirees should receive the retirement benefits they earn. And he understands that all of us are born with great potential. But in order to realize that potential, We have to invest in it as a society and as a state. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you my choice, and I hope your choice for the next governor and the Democratic nomination for governor for the state of Illinois, Mr. Chris Kennedy.